Chairwoman Kincannon? questions? developed through the Thomas. Successful for the youth in our care. Our approach to foster care management and reunification, we also utilize nurse care managers as part of our teams. Our nurses focus on care coordination and consultation for youth with complex medical needs. Can also have behavioral health issues and medication management for medically fragile youth. And as a member of the planning and treatment team, they help support the youth, the foster parents, and biological parents in addressing the healthcare needs of those children. Now, this added support helps in stabilizing placements that otherwise may disrupt due to the physical, behavioral needs of these youth. The majority of the youth who exited care over the past 10 months were reunified with their parent or caregiver. And the second reason for exiting was through adoption. And the third reason was through establishing a custodian or a guardian. In January of last year, we began providing family preservation and reunification services in 25 counties in the DCF Eastern region. We have a packet here and we have a breakdown of the state and where we do our different programs within the state, so you can see that. So this is the Eastern region, essentially the whole going down from north to south, eastern part of the state. And through this program, we are providing prevention services to families with identified risk factors. And this is to help mitigate the risk through early intervention, help build competencies and parent caretakers to resolve problems and provide resources to overcome barriers. I think we all agree the goal of this is to keep children safely in their home through intensive short-term interventions. Because we all, best case, you keep the children in the home, don't you can hopefully not have to remove those children to begin with, right? You can get in and work with the family to overcome some of those issues, then the child never has to be put in custody again. That's always what we're trying to do. And lastly, we've been provided functional family therapy since Families First Prevention Service Act. Some of you may know that was a federal act and received significant federal money in the state. And we were awarded the functional family therapy contract for that. And this is an evidence-based treatment model that works with youth who have been exhibited conduct or behavior disorders. And the program is an effort to keep them out of the juvenile justice system. So you'll hear a lot of talk about crossover youth. This is a program that hopefully those children have been identified that it's very likely they may go on to that. And how can we get in there early and see what we can do with our programs to mitigate that? The model works with both the parents and the youth. You get as many people that can touch on those children as possible early on, and get them to improve their problem-solving skills among all the family members and the youth, and increase solution-oriented decision-making. So we appreciate the opportunity to work across several grants and programs, be able to meet families where they are in their own journey. Whether it's working to help keep a family safely together, or provide functional family therapy to a young person to avoid involvement with our juvenile justice system, or working with the child in state custody to connect them with safe and loving homes. All these strategies contribute to our mission of partnering for safe and healthy communities. Stand for questions. Thanks so much.
Thanks for filling in, Patty. Do we have questions? Representative Johnson.
Yes, a question. Where are your offices? I'm out of Leavenworth County, and it's my area, and I saw.
I'll get your packet. I can show you exactly where Leavenworth our offices are. But depending on what program we have and what areas we offer, we have offices in most of those counties.
So I would love to come.
Absolutely.
Legislature. I might probably. Second question: has your group worked with the Joy Meadows foster care program? It's just being created in the last 2 years in southern Leavenworth County.
That's a great question for our president, and I will find out and I'll get back to you. I don't know. I'm not, that's not familiar to me, but that doesn't mean that we don't have some people. I will find out and do that.
Very,
Thanks.
Did you want to pass
No,
that
that's-
down? No, you. Yeah, Patty asked me if we, since we're paperless, if she could pass those out. These are all left over from our special committee on foster care that met this fall.
But if you have the right-hand side, we have, this is a breakdown of the different programs we have and where they're located in the state. And you can see where your district is, you have those values. Programs in there. Well, I'm around every day, so if you guys have any questions, you can always feel free to give me a call and we'll happily answer anything. I really appreciate all the good work you guys do here. I'm a former state representative. I actually served on children and seniors. It's a very worthwhile, sometimes tough to hear things, but very worthwhile committee. And you guys do good work, so thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Patty. Hey, Fran, would you run and get my computer, please? Down the line. Okay, just a well, we were going to just start the meeting over and do do a WebEx invitation with all of you who have computers here. That's why I asked for mine. I've been following along with the handouts on my iPads. Lesson learned, bring my computer. But we also are real close to maybe being prepared.
So while we're waiting, what we can do is have everyone download WebEx onto your laptops or your mobile phones and set up your account. And I will send out a notification so that everyone is able to jump to my computer.
Alright, so everyone should be able to pull up Fire
Rachel, can you hear me?
I heard you.
Oh.
Hi.
Hi, there you are.
Can
Welcome to
anyone else?
committee.
Okay, thank you.
Hang on, just let's just take a deep breath and get everybody back in here. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay. So Rachel Mars, this is Rachel Mars. She's with Children's Alliance of Kansas. And we've had 3 presentations of people who were here in person. So
Okay.
it hasn't been completely wasted time. So anyway, welcome to committee, Rachel.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's a little challenging. I haven't done this online yet, so it's hard when you can't see the committee members. My name is Rachel Marsh. I am the leader of the Children's Alliance of Kansas. My background is I am an attorney and a master's level social worker, and I've worked in Kansas child welfare for 15 years and with Kansas children and families for 20 years. I want to tell you today about who the Children's Alliance is, what's important to us, and what our priorities are for this session. And I also want to try to keep it short because I know you have a number of people who've been waiting. What I want to leave you with, especially for new committee members, is that the Children's Alliance is a resource for anyone with any questions about child welfare and family and child well-being in Kansas. Our members, as you can see, if you have my testimony, I don't know how well that's working, is that we have expertise across the range. If you need a service for a vulnerable child or a vulnerable family, our members have that expertise. We have expertise in young children, early childhood. We have Head Start programs. We have people who are excellent working with medically fragile children who enter foster care. We have experts with children who have intellectual developmental disabilities, youth and adults with substance use disorders, as well as what you might more traditionally think of as the foster care system, with family preservation, family first grantees and prevention services, case management for foster children, and adoption services, as well as services to help adults as they transition out of the foster care system. We have outpatient mental health, we have inpatient mental health, and we have acute hospitalization for adolescents, as well as other members have treatment for substance use, particularly women with substance use issues. So what I'm trying to express to committee members who are new about the Children's Alliance is that the child welfare system is a complex and comprehensive system of care for children and families that starts at prenatal and goes all the way through young adulthood and then incorporates the whole family. If you want to hear from any of our members on any specific question, I'm happy to provide and make those connections for you. We as a group have decided as part of our mission, and it's in the bylaws of the Children's Alliance, that we are focused on improving the system of safety and well-being for children and families in Kansas. So we bring our collective expertise together, network about the concerns that we see in the system of care, and advocate for improved systems. And so you'll see me throughout maybe not this session, you'll see me on video throughout this session. I will be reaching out to you either by email or to ask for a Zoom interview, so that you know we're here as a resource. In future years, you'll see me up at the State House to be available for questions about the child welfare system. We want to just highlight really quickly what we watch in the Kansas legislature. We're very concerned about prevention. We believe that we should have our systems emphasized on preventing any traumatic experience before it happens to a child by preventing child maltreatment and preventing neglect. We want to also prevent when we have a family that faces a vulnerable situation or is in a crisis, that we help build a system that gets that family services so that they don't have to have the child enter foster care, so that we can help that family at that pre-crisis moment before a child has to be removed from the home. Then we advocate for a very strong foster care system. We need the system to focus on making sure that children who do enter foster care have the chance to be with their relatives, if that's possible. We want to focus on system innovation within the foster care system and make sure that the funding that we have in our system all the way across all these networks can build something so when children and families need a service, even though they're in foster care, they still need those services that are out in the world, mental health services or substance use services. So we want a system that makes sure that when we're trying to connect children in foster care to the services in the community, that those services are available and accessible in a timely manner and are of a high quality. Finally, we want to make sure that and this kind of goes to what I was mentioning, we want to make sure that we're focused on the child welfare system across the continuum. There is a common misconception that child welfare is just foster care, and that is not true. The child welfare system is a broad system, and we want to make sure that people don't have to enter foster care, and that when they exit foster care, they're going to strong communities. That's what we hope for our families. When we get a child placed back at home with a family, we want that family to be able to focus on the strengths and resources in their community, so that they can be successful in the long run without the state agency involvement. So our primary recommendations this year are to focus on enhancing and continuing Kansas' leading investment in the Family First Prevention Services Act. We were one of the very first states to implement prevention services, which was a very transformative change that happened in the federal government a couple years ago. And through the recent CARES Act, the federal government has actually made it possible for 100% match for Family First services. So we look for this legislature to continue to support those programs and expand those programs because we can afford those programs, especially if you're concerned about any budget issues. We are working as a system to improve our work in the kinship family realm to make sure that relatives have access to the same training, support, and opportunity to be licensed as a foster parent so that children can live with their loved ones. So that's a second priority that we have. A third priority, if you have seen me up here before, you might have been hearing me talk about youth with complex needs. This has been a challenge in Kansas for a number of years. We had kind of a perfect storm of system colliding around youth in our state. And it was not from any one thing that happened, but it was from a collection of factors. We had the number of children in foster care was rising. We had the reduction in access to psychiatric residential treatment beds. We had juvenile justice reform happen at the exact same time. And we had some cuts to concrete family services that has been known to impact family vulnerability to having their children placed in foster care. So with all of these colliding, we had some children who really have some complex needs that as a state, we're needing to continue to focus on. We need to make sure that our systems meet the child where the child is, and that we're not asking the child to meet our system where the system is. So that's something that you'll continue to hear from me that's just one of my soapboxes. And so you'll definitely know more about making sure that we're meeting the needs of those older youth with complex needs who don't fit in one particular program. And so then it's easy for them to have a challenge getting their needs met. We ultimately want to also look and make sure that the protections for children and families are here this year. We see in the governor's budget, just from earlier today, that she is wanting to fund crisis response for youth and young adults, and we absolutely support that. We want to also, I made a note and now I've lost the note. Oh, she's also focused on information technology for human services. And if you weren't here for the Child Welfare System Task Force, you may not know, but the child welfare technology systems that DCF manages require investment. And so the Children's Alliance is very strongly supportive of those technological advances. So again, I thank you for your time, and I thank you for working to get all of the technology set up. And please do not hesitate to reach out to me. And if I can help you connect with any of our providers in the state of Kansas who intimately know what the child welfare system looks like on a day-to-day basis and can help answer those questions. And I am happy to sit for questions at the appropriate time.
Thanks, Rachel. When you talk about the children with complex needs, is that synonymous with crossover youth?
It can be synonymous, but it's also not. What we find is that there is a segment of youth, and it is not a huge number of youth, but there are youth whose behavioral needs or symptomology is hard to define. Is it a juvenile justice issue? Is it a behavioral health issue that's been untreated? Is there a substance addiction that it makes it difficult to see which issue it might be? Or is there an IDD challenge that child that makes it more difficult for that child to engage with services and receive the benefits? So it is crossover youth because that segment of the population that we serve that has the most need can tend to be at the most risk for becoming involved with law enforcement, but is not only the crossover youth.
Okay, thank you. Committee, do we have other questions? Okay, Rachel, thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go as far as we can with time. Next up, we have Kansas Children's Service League. Do we have Gail Kozad?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for inviting me today. I am Gail Kozad. I am the CEO for Kansas Children's Service League. KCSL, as many of you may know, is a statewide private agency serving children and their families. And most importantly, we are the Kansas chapter for Prevent Child Abuse America. Like Rachel, I have grown up in my professional career over 20 years now, working in the world of child welfare, both in child protective services early on within the foster care system, and now really working to prevent children from entering the foster care system. So our work with children and families improves school readiness now so that graduation rates improve in the future. We help families succeed now to be better parents and better employees. And we are creating a stronger, more resilient and educated workforce for the future of Kansas. We know that the progress that we make today in preventing child abuse or neglect is that we will prevent future crimes and incarceration and hopefully break a very destructive cycle for children and their future families. And so we know that this improves prosperity and success for all Kansas communities.
Gail, sorry to
Yes.
interrupt you. We can't hear you very well. I mean, we can hear you, but it's real soft. I don't know if it's your microphone or.
Okay, I will try and speak louder.
Yeah, that's what I'd appreciate. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So KCSL's, we have several programs. We make sure that they are evidence-based programming that works with children and families, and they are in the areas of health, safety, and education so that we can break those cycles of neglect, abuse, and trauma. Despite parental risk factors in 2020, 94% of the children that we served, which was 1,587 children that we served, were not placed into foster care through our home visitation programs. One of the things that we know is that there's over 30 years of research about how the impact of child adversity it has an impact on children as they become adults and their ability to function. And we know that that adversity includes abuse and neglect. It also includes household dysfunctions or other circumstances that affect children adversely, which include substance abuse, mental illness of a parent, domestic violence, and criminal behavior. And we know that all of these things can put a child at a higher risk of entering the foster care system. So all of our programs at KCSL focus on improving the circumstances that prevent these things from happening to children, or when they do, to help the child and the parent build resiliency so that the impact of that trauma decreases as they continue throughout their life. So this is really important to me personally, and just to put a face to what this looks like, you know, I grew up with a parent who was an alcoholic, and my family struggled to make ends meet. There was violence and abuse in my home, but I had extended family who were involved in my life every day. They cared for me, they mentored me, they taught me, and they supported my mother when she made the decision to leave my father. Today, I realize how lucky I am to have these people in my life that helped me build my resiliency. And that's part of the reason why I'm here today and in my role at KCSL, because they helped me to equip me with the tools to be successful. So what KCSL does is we come in with parents and their children when there was no one else that they can turn to, and we become that support system for them so that they can build resiliency and be successful as they move into further into their own lives. So I provided a lot of written testimony for you, but I know we're short on time, so I am going to just say in conclusion, we really want you to remember that prevention is the most cost-effective and the most efficient for children who are able to remain safely at home. We know that community-based prevention efforts are effective in helping keep children and their parents safe. We know that we can build resiliency, and we know that we can keep them out of the foster care system. So we hope that during this tough legislative session that you will continue to support funding efforts that have already been in place around prevention, which includes the Families First Prevention through the Department for Children and Families, TANF also through the Department for Children and Families, and the Children's Initiative Fund through the Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund. So in light of time, I'm going to go ahead and end my testimony for you all today. Thank you for inviting me, and I will stand for questions.
Thank you for being with us, Gail. We do have your written testimony in our folders online. Do we have any questions for Gail? Okay, thank you. Thanks for being with us, and thank you for what you do.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, Kansas Action for Children. Do we have Mitch Rucker?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mitch. Welcome to committee.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you all today. I am Mitch Rucker, and I am the Early Learning Policy Advisor for Kansas Action for Children. I believe that you have written testimony, so I'll try to avoid repeating that too much in the interest of time. But I did want to highlight a couple of points from that. KAC has been around for a little over 40 years, where we have pursued policies that will make Kansas the best place to raise and be a child. So we cover health issues, economic supports, budget and tax, and early learning policies. So if ever there's anything related to any of those policy areas, please feel free to reach out to myself or any other member of our staff. We like to say there's no wrong door at Kansas Action for Children. As I said, I am the Early Learning Policy Advisor. And, so what that means, and, some people hear early learning and they think maybe, just preschool. But I wanted to make clear that that covers much more than just pre-K programs. Early learning, or sometimes you might hear early childhood education, depending on which Zoom meeting you're in, covers a wide range of childcare. Whether it is home-based care, child care center, a pre-K program, Head Start, home visiting, parents as teachers, whatever it is, that is all childcare, and all childcare is early learning. Recent neuroscience has shown us that the first 5 years is where the bulk of brain development actually happens. And we can actually see now inside of a child's brain as it develops, see the wires connecting and lighting up and building upon themselves. And so we know that healthy environments and positive experiences and healthy relationships help the brain develop in a positive way. And conversely, unhealthy environments or adverse experiences hurt that growth, and that has lifelong implications. And so that's why we push for policies that improve the access and quality to high quality childcare for all Kansas children, so that they all have the opportunity to fulfill their potential, regardless of the setting that that's in. And so for that purpose, we'll be pushing a couple of different policies this session. One dealing with a tax credit for employers to help their employees provide childcare. Another that would help draw down all available federal funds for childcare in Kansas. And while I'd be surprised if either of those come before this committee, I hope that you will consider the importance of high quality childcare and early education and the impact that it has for our state as you do consider the policies that come before this committee and the others that you're in. I'd like to close in the interest of time just real quickly with a quote from the film No Small Matter, which I encourage you to see if you haven't yet, that says, if we get this right, our world will look dramatically different. And I can tell you that from the energy of the professionals and providers and the engagements of parents across the state when it comes to high quality childcare and early education right now, with the support of policymakers like yourselves, I know that if anybody can get it right, the Kansans can. So I thank you for the opportunity to testify today and would stand for any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you, Mitch. Anybody have questions? All right. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for waiting on us, and thanks for what you do.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll try to fit one more in. We've got Kansas Appleseed. Looks like Mike Fonkert and Haley Kotler. Are you one of you here or both of you?
We're both here. We're going to split our time, so we'll both be very brief.
Okay, welcome to committee.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Concannon and members of the committee for allowing us to speak today. I'll get right into it. At the top of our legislative priority list is establishing an Office of the Child Advocate to provide independent oversight, which is a crucial missing component in Kansas foster care system. The OCA is a proven watchdog mechanism that other states have used to realize the meaningful reform that we need here in Kansas. We have a policy brief on the OCA, how it will protect Kansas kids in foster care and potentially save the state millions of dollars. And we'd be happy to share that information with you if it hasn't been distributed already. We are excited to continue our work with you to find solutions for the problems that our foster care system faces, and we certainly have a lot of work to do. But it is work that's best done together, as it is work that's protecting our children, families, and communities. We have, at Kansas Appleseed, been working in the child welfare world now for a few years, and we continue to be astonished by the situations we encounter. We receive calls nearly every day from parents, foster parents, former employees of DCF and contracting agencies, and others that are oftentimes looking for help. And unfortunately, oftentimes that is help that we are unable to provide them. There is a great need in this system for someone to act without bias in order to help sort out the complicated situations that can arise. The Office of the Child Advocate could do that. We have so much to do to truly fix this system, but one thing we know for sure is that independent oversight is a crucial and necessary component of long-term successful foster care reforms. We have heard many questions raised to us directly and in testimony presented to legislative committees over the last year that question the decision-making of contractors or DCF workers? Who do we rely on to give us the truth when the people we have entrusted to care for our children come under scrutiny? When they say that they have done no wrong, do we simply take their word for it? Or do we trust but verify? A truly independent oversight mechanism, the Office of the Child Advocate, could serve to help us look into these questions. While we do want to emphasize the great need for independent oversight, we do not want to imply that oversight alone can protect the children and families of Kansas. There is much that can be done, and to discuss another important element of this work, I will hand it off to my colleague, Haley Kotler.
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Chairwoman Concannon, and the members of this committee for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm going to be talking a little bit about anti-hunger work and food insecurity here in Kansas. So before the pandemic, we knew that over 370,000 Kansans struggled with food insecurity. These numbers have skyrocketed due to the pandemic, with 1 in 8 Kansas adults and a staggering 1 in 4 Kansas kids going hungry currently. I'll just say that again, 1 in 4 Kansas kids are facing food insecurity right now. The only way to ensure no one goes hungry during or after the coronavirus is through deep investment in our federal nutrition programs, like the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, or it used to be called food stamps. This program is the largest food assistance program administered by the United States Department of Agriculture, and SNAP is one of the primary ways that we address hunger and poverty here in the United States. Additionally, it plays an essential role in reducing food insecurity and improving the health of our hungry neighbors. So during the 2015 and 2016 legislative sessions, the Kansas Legislature passed 2 bills, both titled the HOPE Act, and 3 critical safety net programs administered by DCF were impacted. One is SNAP, the second is TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, and then Child Care Assistance. As a result of this legislation, it made it significantly more difficult to fully access the proven benefits of SNAP. The HOPE Act codified the worst obstacles for Kansas families and has had devastating effects on the well-being of Kansans. Removing these barriers to assistance is really imperative for all Kansans to have the ability to thrive and create a hopeful future. In the breadbasket of our nation, we really believe that no one should be going hungry. Deep investment in SNAP and other nutrition assistance programs are critical to ensure that Kansans have what they need to thrive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both for being with us. Do we have questions? Representative Esau. Okay. Representative Helmer.
Thank you, Chairman Concannon. Other organizations have advocates for children and youth that are in foster care or just in need. And so I'm interested in what you're saying about being an advocate. Are you meaning to say or to imply that you're advocates for children that are in foster care, like a legal advocate? Or if you're being an advocate, is it a one-on-one situation? And if it is a legal advocate, do you have legal authority over that child? Can you follow them through school? Can you represent them in the courts, or a runaway, or if anything should happen, or go into a jury situation which happens so many times?
Well, so there was a bit to unpack there, but I think what I would say is, in general, we could certainly delve into all of the different nuances you pointed out. What we're looking to establish is an Office of the Child Advocate. It's a model that exists in other states across the country, and this is going to be an office of professionals that are solely dealing with assessing complaints that are made against child welfare system actors in one way or another, as well as studying the system, issuing reports to lawmakers around particular topics, as well as the system in general. So we're not talking specifically about creating what you're referring to in terms of like advocates, in a legal sense, but it's the name of the entity that would be overseeing and monitoring our foster care system would be the Office of the Child Advocate. That would be the head position within that office. And then there would be other positions. So I'd be happy to get into the specifics of what that model looks like in Missouri, which is what we based largely our model off of, but also the different models that exist across the country. But the idea here is that, yes, the folks from that office would be able to access all of the information that they would need about an individual child to resolve any sort of disputes or complaints that are happening in regard to that child.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And just to follow up on that, from our special committee on foster care oversight, one of the recommendations from that was that this committee would have hearings this session on Office of the Child Advocate. Other questions?